Hello everybody. It is Saturday the 18th of October, and I want to talk about Judas Iscariot and his role in the story of Jesus and his role in the story of the New Testament, and the way that the church is describing Judas as the ultimate villain. Yeah, the one that betrayed Jesus. I've just watched videos that said that he was probably the only one that was truly initiated into the highest understanding of what Jesus said. And I believe that to be true, that version of Judas. But that version of Judas is for the initiated. In these teachings, in the spiritual teachings, there are always two levels. And Jesus said that himself. He said that to his disciples. To you it is being given to know the true meaning. That is the level of the initiated. And to them, to the masses, it is not. That is the level of religion. So, I want to show you this here, how Judas probably was the only one that understood and actually rose to a higher level on the occasion. I mean, let me make very clear, Jesus did not die for you. He said that over and over again. Let me say that again. I do nothing for myself as a human being. I do not speak unless I'm being told what to say. I do not do unless I'm told to do so. Yeah? The Father and I are one. And that is not the all. He's in touch with another being. He is a prophet. He is channeling. He's speaking the words of another being. I'm not speaking my own words. He's been led. Yeah? That was the truth of Jesus. Again, that is portrayed as a higher knowledge, above human understanding, which is derived out of our thoughts and our emotional knowing and of our attachment to one another and to this world. This is the knowledge of this world in us. You must rise above that to do the will of God. That is what it says. And those that understand are the initiated into the process of being the true servants to that God. And they're probably been shown ways to work that within themselves, to change themselves, to become the servants of the kingdom. Now, again, Jesus did that. He healed, he resurrected, because it was in service to the kingdom. It should glorify God, not for the people, but for the glorification of God and service to God. When he resurrected Lazarus, he first of all had to let him die. Again, Jesus was a human being. Those were his friends. Lazarus was his friends. His sisters were his friends. He was very close, emotionally close. He had an attachment, a human attachment to that family. Emotional, feeling attachment to that family. Again, he had to overcome those feelings, not go by his own knowing, but trust God that it was a good thing to let Lazarus die and to resurrect him afterwards, because that was part of the higher plan. And he had to play his role in that plan. So he had to let Lazarus die, because that was part of the plan. And he had to deny himself. He had to deny his humanity in order to do that, to get to this higher state. Yeah, above the world, above the world. I mean, that is crude to start with. To me, that is not a higher state of consciousness. But from the perception that we are nothing, our humanity is nothing, and they are so much greater, then yes, then you would say you rise above your humanity in order to do what God commands. And that is, let your friend die, because it serves me. So when it comes to, let's go back to Judas. When Jesus said that evening, one of you will betray me. Tonight, one of you will betray me. And there were 11 disciples caught up in their own lower human emotions. They were concerned. They were afraid. They have affection for Jesus, so they don't want him to be betrayed. Those are the ones that have failed to rise above, because it is the plan of God that Jesus should be betrayed in that night. Jesus spoke the words of a prophet, the words of the one that he was one with. And Judas was the only one that understood. Tonight, somebody has to betray Jesus, because again, that is part of the play, that is part of the plan that needs to be done for the whole thing to be fulfilled. And then Judas was the only one, again, that rose again to a higher level. Yeah, that denied his own affections for Jesus, that denied his own fears, that denied his own worries, his own negative emotions, and rose to the part of clarity and enlightenment and went and betrayed his own friend, because that is what needed to be done. That was the will of God. So Judas was the only one that denied his own humanity, rose above this world, to deny his own friend, to hand him over to be killed. That is the understanding of the initiated. Those that think, that watch the play and say Jesus was the good shepherd that healed, they are on the level of religion. They are not initiated into the higher purpose. And the higher purpose was always in that book, in the Bible, from the beginning, that God should come, that a God, and again, not the creator cannot be known, but a being should come and have dominion over this world. Yeah, and in order to serve that being, you have to overcome your humanity and rise to what they would describe as a higher level. It is actually the level of a psychopath. Now, to say, to come to a point of pure detachment and knowledge and freedom, absolute freedom. Because if you are no longer tied by your human emotion, by the personas that you've built that are actually attachments to other beings, the persona of the mother, the persona of the father, that is built out of the ties that you have with another human being, that is building the persona. That is actually a truth that is built out of caring, out of being connected to one another. You overcome the connections of this world. You overcome the knowledge of this world. And then it's actually you come to the point of a psychopath where you no longer care, where you are no longer held back by those feelings, and then you are at a point of true freedom, where you can do whatever. There's nothing holding you back. That again is the state of the psychopath. When there's nothing negative holding you back, and you're free to do whatever. That kind of freedom. So again, Judas must have worked very hard on himself that night to overcome the knowledge of this world, to be free, to betray his friend and hand him over to be killed. Because that was the higher purpose, that was the plan, that is what needed to be done. Of course, the church cannot teach that, because that is the knowledge of the initiate. The sheep on the level of religion have to believe on the play, which is Jesus the healer, Jesus the good shepherd. And in that story, Judas obviously has to be the villain. Rise above. And I say at the moment, looking at myself, looking at that, you're better knowing that story from the perspective of the observer. And observe it through the eyes of your humanity to know good and bad. Once you become an initiate, once you enter the state of a psychopath, you will no longer be able to see. Well, you see a truth, you see the truth of the psychopath, but you will not be able to see the human truth. Once you enter into that teaching on the level of the initiated, you will no longer be able to see the human truth. And here is our esteemed leaders, those that play parts in the play. As we say, we're all watching a play, because we are on the level of religion. They are in it. They are the initiate. They are playing their part, and they're doing it with purity. It's pure evil. It was pure evil from the beginning. No God that demands of you that you sacrifice your son, that you let your friend die, that you betray your friend and hand him over to be killed. The God that commands that because it serves his plan. That God is evil. And it's time people understood that. It is really time, and that there is no change from the Old. In the Old Testament, it is a lot more obvious. It has risen to a higher level. In the New Testament, it is the same evil. Nothing has changed. And the only way we can stand against that is by holding on to each other and holding on to our human truth. And that is both good emotions and bad emotions. Both. The fullness of our truth. To withstand this evil. Those that are the evil ones in this world now, that play their part in the game without asking anything for themselves. I mean, those that do not ask any for themselves are the purest. That will do whatever, completely detached from the knowledge of this world. They are the true followers of Jesus on the highest level. And if you do not understand what is going on, it's because you are still caught on the level of religion, believing the play that they played in front of you of the Good Shepherd. So really, we must rise to the level of the initiate without being the initiate, but as an observer of the initiate, without getting caught in that web ourselves. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. I think there is an awakening to this truth. And there are others that are doubling down on the level of religion, on the level of Jesus the Good Shepherd. And I think this thing will split itself completely into two camps, those that can see the truth, those that are still caught in the play, and then you have the initiates doing their psychopathic thing in the meantime. So maybe three camps. But I think we need to have more and more people waking up to the truth of what he actually taught. And it's not that it's hidden. He said it over and over and over again. Do not judge. Do not go by your own knowing. Rise above the knowledge of this world, which is the knowledge of a human being, so you can do the will of God. God wants dominion over this world, and if you are a true disciple, you pour out plagues and stuff to help him do that, because you have detached. And that is hailed as a higher state, which obviously, if you're still human, it is not. They're fallen angels, those that follow that God. Right, I will leave it at that for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.